Welcome to the Get Over Yourself podcast. This is author and athlete Brad Kearns discovering ways to be healthy, fit, and happy in hectic, high-stress modern life. So let's slow down and take a deep breath, take a cold plunge, and expertly balance that competitive intensity with an appreciation of the journey. That's the theme of the show. Here we go. The Get Over Yourself podcast is brought to you by Almost Heaven, beautiful compact home use sauna kits, ancestral supplements, grass-fed organ meats in a capsule, DNA Fit, genetic testing for custom diet and exercise recommendations, Integro Health, high-potency liquid probiotic called Flourish, Organifi, organic powdered superfoods, delicious green, gold, and red powders, Wild Idea Buffalo, sustainable, grass-fed, beyond organic, real ketones, clean burning ketones for athletic performance and fat loss. And check out the bradkearns.com/shop page. That's my personal selection of favorite products for health, fitness, and peak performance. And here we go with the show.
My intention was to pursue a career as a professional triathlete, which I informed him of that, and he goes, and he said, you know, you're welcome back here anytime, because they just spent like thousands of dollars training me, and I was bailing, probably the earliest bailout they'd had, you know. And so I was like this purely trained athlete with no coach, no technology, no heart rate monitor, no wattage meter, no Fitbit. And if I was tired, I'd head out the door and I'd discover in 8 minutes, like, I kind of feel like crap today. I'm going to turn around and go home. Yeah, and it wasn't a big deal to me either. I wasn't like depressed because my workout didn't happen. It was just like, oh, I'm tired. Then a great tragedy occurred in my life at that time, and that was that I graduated from college.
Hey, how about a backwards commercial? Are you ready? So, go to OrganifiShop.com and enter the discount code BRAD for 20% off your order. That's ORGANIFI shop.com. Why would I do something as silly as a backwards commercial? It's because I'm positive you have to try this stuff. Trust me, order some now. It's going to change your life. Organifi is an organic superfood supplement company. They're known for their greens. You take them when you travel, get all your nutrition. But I like their top secret Organifi Gold warm relaxation beverage. This is the single best tasting tea you will ever try in your life. So if you want something soothing, delicious, nutritious at the end of your busy, productive day, pour yourself a scoop of Organifi Gold. What's in there? Turmeric, the anti-inflammatory superstar, is the base. And then, listen to this, smooth coconut milk, cinnamon, ginger, lemon balm, and 2 super mushrooms. It's legit. It's delicious. Check it all out at OrganifiShop.com. And don't forget to put in B.rad for 20% off. Try Organifi Gold. If you're not totally satisfied, send it back to me and I'll keep it. Okay, you ready for a change of pace here? The following recording is a hiking podcast put on by the industrious and clever Jake Taylor of Folsom, California, young financial business leader, aspiring author, writing about the fascinating subject of the proper allocation of capital and resources by an organization. And wow, something we never really think about, including many top organizations, but such an important thing for anyone, even the allocation of capital in your family. Who's going to do the dishes tonight? You know what I mean? Anyway, Jake had this wonderful idea to expand on the theme of his existing podcast called 5 Good Questions, 5GQ. And what he does is he interviews authors. He's read their books. He's completely knowledgeable about their whole deal. Gets them on the show, picks 5 good questions, and they go deeper. He's a big fan of reading. His homepage at 5goodquestions.com, all spelled out, mentions the stat that the average American watches 5 hours of television per day. What would the world be like if we dedicated one of those hours to reading books instead? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. And that's his opening statement for the 5 good questions. And at the bottom, think about this. If you pledge even 20 minutes a day to reading a book, you'll get through 35 books in 12 months. Imagine how much smarter you'd be 1 year from now having read 35 books. This is an interesting insight that I've heard elsewhere, that some of the great business leaders and most accomplished people on the planet attribute a lot of their success of their knowledge base to reading books. And it's such a lost art these days because we have so much digital stimulation, nonstop entertainment options. Books fall by the wayside because a video is so much more compelling and easy to relax into and watch with less effort. Well, what a great mission by Jake. And here he is kicking off the new direction for his podcast, which is to get people out hiking outdoors, where we've heard of research stating that the brain becomes more creative, more relaxed, maybe better able to pull out interesting insights in a conversation. And we can all reference that when we go running with our buddies and we get out there on the trails, or go for a hike up to the high peak on the Appalachians or the Sierras and have a great bonding experience with our hiking partners. And we talk about things that we might not necessarily be as inclined to open up about when we're sitting in a noisy happy hour bar. And I thought it was pretty fun. You can hear the rhythmic pattern in the background, and that's the feet walking on the hard scramble trail here around Folsom Lake. And the show starts with Jake teeing me up with one good question. How did a kid from the Los Angeles, California area grow up to become a champion triathlete? Boom, that's all Brad needs. Here we go. So enjoy some of my story. Hope you can gather some inspiration from it. When I talk about my athletic background and journey, I'm always trying to tie it into relevant insight for the listener to cultivate that pure motivation, get over yourself, all that fun stuff. And this show is a simulcast on Jake's channel. So go over there and check out his podcast, 5 Good Questions. Thanks for listening.
5GQX. Welcome to Outdoor Wonder.
Hey, this is Jake Taylor, your host of the world's first interview hikecast. We dive deep as interesting people take me on their favorite hikes. So if you're ready for something a little different, throw this on, get outside, and come take a hike with us. Today we're going for a hike with one of my favorite characters, Brad Kearns. Brad is a podcast host, a New York Times bestselling author, a Guinness World Record holder, and the former #3 world-ranked pro triathlete. And a world starved for authenticity, Brad is never afraid to be himself. And I love that about him. I hope you enjoy this hike with Brad Kearns. But first, please save a spot on your shelf for my first book coming out later this year. It's called The Rebel Allocator, and it's a fictional coming-of-age story about a young man who learns about business and life from an unlikely teacher. Imagine Thorndike's The Outsiders meets The Karate Kid. You're probably saying to yourself, fiction? Really, Jake? My goal was to give you everything you'd learn from a good nonfiction book, but wrap it in an entertaining story. Look for it to come out later this year. And now, without further delay, let's get outside. So I'd like to hear the story of how did a kid from Southern California end up becoming the #3 triathlete in the world? And what was the story of how'd you even get into triathlon? Because it's not like a typical sport where you're like, they have basketball at school, after, and you get to play and you learn if you like it or not. So how'd you get into triathlon?
Okay, let me push stop here because I don't want people to know this necessarily. It's top secret. Okay, that red button, just push that. Okay, so it's off. All right, so I was a little kid who loved sports, was pretty competitive, and did all the stuff that you do. And we had the YMCA had a year-round sports program where you were on the same team, but you did 4 sports: flag football, basketball, soccer, and track. And that was just all kinds of fun doing these things. And then, I'm in LA and headed to a large public high school, Taft High School. Go look on Wikipedia, notable Taft alumni. NFL guys, NBA guys, Hollywood, stars.
Ice Cube, the rapper, Justine Bateman, the actress, Robin Wright, the actress. You know, it was a big time deal. So when you go out for the sports team there, and I went out for the football team my first day with my buddy JB, and we walked over and saw these guys coming out of the locker room for practice, and we're like, God dang, the varsity guys are huge, man. Look at those guys. And then the coach is like, can I help you? We're like, yeah, we're gonna go try out for the B team. Where's the B team? He goes, this is the B team. And he's like, what do you want? You know, and I'm like, I want to know where the cross country team practice meeting is. He's like, down the stairs to the lower field. So that was my football career ending on the spot. Because in middle school, I was like a superstar quarterback on the flag football park league, where you're in with kids your own age. And I was young for my grade, so I was like, you know, in an appropriate competitive setting and having all kinds of fun scoring touchdowns, thinking I was going to take that to the LA
level,
City Public High School with 3,000 students. In fact, our team Taft played the #1 ranked team in the nation, Banning High School, which is a legendary program down in the harbor area, and we lost 65-10. It was an absolute slaughtering, and you know, it was completely out of my realm. So I was pushed over to endurance sports, which is, I think, the story for a lot of kids in high school. You know, trying to find a way to make a name for myself and do something besides sit in the stands. And
so that then led you to cross country, which was more.
And I wasn't really into it, Jake. I, for some reason, was kind of disillusioned with running. I did a few races in the summer and just got burnt out. You know, I was a pretty good runner in middle school. I won the races, and then I got to high school, and I was kind of going into the bathroom when we crossed the street from campus, and I'd hide in the bathroom until the team passed, and then I'd go home and jump on my trampoline and eat food. So that was my workout. I just didn't want to be there. It was just kind of...
But then you'd go run the races?
So I went to the first race, and we got bussed across the city down to San Pedro, and you know, there's 120 freshmen and sophomores on the starting line for a 2-mile race cross country in Peck Park, San Pedro, and I won the thing pretty easily. So I was like, okay, I guess I better take some interest in this sport. And you know, it was like the feedback that you get from a little success is helpful, but it took a while, like, for the real devotion and the focus to kick in. And it helped my friends Stephen Deitch, Stephen Cobreen, great friends today. You know, we're lifelong buddies from this running experience in high school. And Mr. Deitch was, you know, #3 in the nation in 10K as a high school student. He ran a 31:20. He later went on to All-American UC Riverside. He competed for the United States of America in the World Junior Cross Country Championships. So this was my sidekick in high school. And this guy drove us like a dog. I mean, we were driven like a pack of dogs to try to keep up with this guy who had no, you know, he was like a cyborg. He had there was no pain, there was no discomfort, no suffering. He was just like, hey, let's go. You know, and we'd do a crazy track practice with intervals and a very difficult session. And then he'd call up at 6:30 and say, hey, come on over, we'll jog down to the yogurt store and get a treat. And so we'd go over there, or wherever we'd start, and we'd run 5 miles at a very brisk tempo pace, because that's just how he ran every single workout. So I had like the role model and the perspective of, like, if you work really, really hard, this is the path to, you know, to compete at the highest level. And so a year and a half after I started running in high school, I was in the National Junior Olympics finals in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was ranked 12th in the nation in my division for 1,500 meters. That's like the mile. And then in high school, I made it to the state finals of California in the mile. And that was all fun and games. And then I was looking forward to a collegiate running career. I was headed to UC Santa Barbara, and I got there and just got destroyed, sick or injured 5 seasons in a row. And it was just going into this competitive setting with a bunch of other young guys, not a really healthy competitive environment either. I remember one day the coach had us in the bleachers and said, well, okay, there's 21 guys out for cross country, that's great. By the way, only 7 of you will travel and get the sweatsuit and get to have that, you know, experience.
Actually be on the team.
Being a badass, yeah. I mean, you're welcome to run in the home meets, but the traveling squad, the guys who score points, those are the guys that count, right? It's like being on the bench in football or basketball.
Practice squad.
Yeah, the practice squad. So, you know, I pushed myself really, really hard. I did whatever they said and whatever they asked of me because I had that competitive drive, and that just served to destroy me. So that was like my first
insight or my first checkpoint to developing the training theory and the philosophy that I dispense to other athletes, and I've done so for 30 years of coaching and participating. It's like, just because you're a competitive dude and you know how to push the gas pedal or squeeze the throttle to full speed does not equate with success in anything, especially endurance sports. It's just going to crush you,
So how did you start adding the bike and the swim then?
Yeah,
because you were a pretty good runner, like maybe had some natural proclivities to being a good runner. But that always doesn't necessarily translate into biking or swimming. But
no, true, and same with the swimmers. Like a lot of them just try to go for triathlon and they get injured, and the guys who are runners cannot float in the water. So what happened was I was so disillusioned with the running experience that I remember my last straw was getting diagnosed with a stress fracture. So again, another season was over, and soon after that I borrowed my brother's bike. He's 6'3.5", I'm 5'10", and I rode from campus to my parents' home in Los Angeles. It was 103 miles with no training. I just said, you know what, I'm going to do this triathlon thing. It was on the map, people knew what it was. I did a fun one in high school, so I had actually finished a triathlon before. And I said, now I'm going to compete in triathlons, so I can heal my leg while I bike my butt off and learn how to swim too. So that was another great
So it's almost
experience.
like a survival thing. Like, I have this competitive juice, but just only running is too much like of a single thing that might lead to injury. So I'm gonna try to balance that out a little bit with some more different like modalities.
Yeah, give me a new goal, man.
Yeah.
And so when I finished that ride, it was just the greatest sensation of like, I do have hope and a future, and I'm not beholden to this disastrous experience that I had as a runner where, it was my identity throughout high school and I'm into college, and now I'm an injured runner. What the heck's that? That's a guy that's like, going to college parties and drinking alcohol. It's like, that wasn't me, but I was forced to the sideline, so I had to, recalibrate quickly. And so it was wonderful to have the sport triathlon there. I participated as an amateur while I was still in college, and had some fun and some decent success in the 19 and under division. And I remember one day hearing, out and about on the campus that there was a bicycling team. So I joined the biking team and learned how to ride in a pace line, and I won the time trial championship for novice riders in the California State Collegiate bike meet, where they had races and time trials. So I had some good ability in cycling that was just from aerobic conditioning, and then some people can pick up cycling well. I picked up swimming pretty well because I was a swimmer as a kid just in Southern Cal. Going to the beach or swimming in pools was part of our life. So I was pretty well adapted, and I loved it, and it was a great challenge. And I remember hearing that while I was at UCSB, I was a senior now, that this guy, Jim Brady, was a student at UCSB. And he was ranked 5th in the world on the USTS circuit, known as the most powerful cyclist out there. He was behind like Molina and Tinley and the legends of the day in the finish, because he was a big guy, but they claim that he was, the strongest biker. So I looked him up in the student directory and I said, hey, my name's Brad. I'm an injured runner from the cross country and track team, and I'm doing triathlons now. I want to do some bicycling with you. Can we go on a ride?
Do you want to ride bikes together?
Yeah, exactly. And he goes, no. And I'm like, what do you mean, man? He gets like, I don't ride with anyone. I go, well, I'd love to join you, it'd be fun. And he's like, no, I don't ride with anyone because no one's fast enough to keep up with me.
And you're like, okay,
and
challenge accepted.
I go, hey, how about if I start with you, and if you drop me, I'll leave, like I just want to see what you're up to and learn. He's like, nah, So we met each other as one of the UCSB group rides. So there's 12, 14 guys in the pack, and I said, hey, it's Brad, I called you on the phone. Oh, hey, and so now we're in this pack, and somehow we arrive. It's a double pace line. So those listeners that don't know cycling, it means like the bikers are drafting in 2 different rows. So there's 4 guys on the left, 4 guys on the right. Imagine this pack of 8 sailing up the road. And when you're in a pack like that, you can go really fast because you share the workload, and you don't have to go into the wind for more than a minute. And then they call it peel off or drop off. And then the guy in second place is now in first as you drift to the side and then catch your place in the back of the pace line, they call it. So we found ourselves at the front of the pace line together, And these prickly cycling guys are very traditional, and they have their perfect clothing, and they want to have the exact same miles per hour for the whole ride. And you go for 1 minute, and then you peel off, and the next guy goes for 1 minute. And we got to the front, and we just like, I gave him a little look, and we just put the gas on so hard. And these guys behind us are like, hey, slow down, it's time to peel off. It's time to peel off. Hey, back off a little bit. And we just went for it.
Neither one's going to give in?
I mean, well, we were doing it together, right? Because we're side by side. We're not like drafting. But we just said, let's just go. And, 10 minutes later, I glance over my shoulder again, and the UCSB cycling team is gone, and it's me and this guy. And so we're just pounding, and finally we get to the top of the hill, and he goes, okay, I'll let you ride with me, but you have to teach me how to run, because I keep getting passed in these, he's on the world circuit getting passed by real runners. And I'm like, deal, we'll go to the track, we'll do some workouts. And so I got exposure to like top level world guys while I was still in college. It was like, what was the book, Malcolm Gladwell, where he's talking about these opportunities, like Bill Gates got to work on the night shift at the world's largest supercomputer at the University of Washington and gained valuable exposure.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Outliers.
So, yeah, Emilio De Soto was on campus at that time training. Tom Gallagher, who was another world rank guy, was on campus at that time training. I didn't know those guys then, but the vibe was there. I mean, we had this killer bike team, and I was all set up to go and succeed in triathlon. And then a great tragedy occurred in my life at that time, and that was that I graduated from college, and so I was thrust.
Kicked out of the nest.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was like, if you don't know UCSB, Google it. You're riding your bike around in shorts and a t-shirt. It's a bicycling-friendly campus like UC Davis. So you're going to the beach when there's waves. You're going to class when you feel like it. And I was just riding my bike around Santa Barbara all day, having a great time, enjoying nature and the challenge of competition. And then I found myself commuting an hour each way in rush hour traffic, Los Angeles, to a high-rise downtown.
Being an accountant?
Yeah, staff auditor for the world's largest accounting firm. And that was like absolute
holy shit,
misery.
where did I go wrong?
Exactly, yeah. I'm asking myself these existential questions like, what am I doing here? I'm in a frickin' basement of a high-rise in all-day new employee training, and everywhere I look, all the guys around me have these big smiles like, did you see the compensation package? Did you see the 401k? How generous that is? They match after 12 years and you can blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like sneaking triathlete magazines in and folding them open inside the new employee hire manual, and just wondering, it's a great path if that's your path. And good for those guys because they got started on wonderful careers, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't my destiny. And so I had that.
And you knew that right away.
I knew that on day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one guy, I remember we had our first 4 hours of training, and then we got break for lunch, and part of the training was like, your voicemail access is this code, and then you punch in your, and so this guy was out at the payphones in the hall checking for voicemail. I was like, really, dude? You're gonna have some clients calling you after 4 hours of training? It's like, come on, get over yourself, as I say on my podcast.
Yeah.
But I lasted 11 weeks, and then I got up the courage to have a meeting with my boss and announce my retirement from the firm. And my intention was to pursue a career as a professional triathlete, which I informed him of that, and he goes, and he said, you're welcome back here anytime, because they just spent like thousands of dollars training me, and I was bailing, probably the earliest bailout they'd had, But, leaving that office building downtown that day, it was March 20th of 1986 or something, that was, again, one of the greatest feelings, that I was finally free to pursue my own dream. I was a young kid, I was only 21, and it's like, why not go for it? My parents supported me. They said, well, that'll be a really fun year for you to go try this.
This is like your gap year, basically.
Exactly, yeah. Again, I got out of the suit, and that very weekend, 2 days later, I rode 100 miles. Again, no training, because I'd been working for 3 months, and just, pushed my body really hard and got immersed into, my new goal. And then I met guys like Andrew McNaughton, who's another top pro, one of the top pros ever. He was based in the San Fernando Valley as well, so of course we found our way to each other and trained together for many, many years. But I had that, supporting environment and open road ahead to try to go for my dream on the pro circuit. The first year was really amazing, and what happened was, this state of mind and perspective that I was in was what I considered to be the ideal peak performance state. I had a pure motivation, which means that I was doing something because I loved it, and I absolutely was committed to the process. I was not overly attached to the end result. I didn't have my self-esteem on the line like I did as a runner.
Yeah.
I was just happy to be out of the high rise and doing something fun, and also just consumed by the challenge. And I would talk with Andrew on the phone for 2 hours after we'd trained together for 4 hours about bicycling parts and how wouldn't it be fun someday to, to get fast enough in the swim to hang with these guys on the bike, and then blah, blah, blah. All day long, it was just so much fun. And so I'd go out to the races and I'd get 12th or 17th or 21st or 24th or 9th or 6th if it was a tiny little race. And
so you were better over shorter then?
I was all doing short distance stuff.
Well, no, but I mean like your ranking would be better on a shorter one.
Yeah,
like
I mean there was no ranking.
Relative.
Like I was completely anonymous, right? So I'd go to these races. I did a couple half Ironman distance that first year, but generally I was just this guy who was filling out the pro field, which you didn't have to qualify back then. You could just say, yeah, I'm pro. And I'd be minutes behind the best guys. But every time I raced, I'd have something positive to take away. And I'd study the results and say, wow, look, my running split was 4th best in the entire race, even though I got 13th.
Right.
Look at that potential I have.
I can build on that.
Yeah, gee, if I hadn't lost the pack in the swim, I possibly could have, stayed closer on the bike and had a chance to show off my 4th run split. So I was knocking on the door. No one knew about it except me and Andrew, and we supported each other's goals in the background and anonymously, but we were having a great time. And so nothing ever swayed me from making the best decisions in training, being patient with my progress, taking what my body gave me each day and nothing more, because that's the best way to train, and that's the biggest mistake that endurance athletes make is they get all serious about themselves and say, well, I got to do 60-mile bike ride today because I got a race coming up in 7 weeks.
Even though they feel sick already.
Or whatever, like all these signs, they're saying, dude, don't be an idiot, and they're an idiot. And so I was like this purely trained athlete with no coach, no technology, no heart rate monitor, no wattage meter, no Fitbit. And if I was tired, I'd head out the door and I'd discover in 8 minutes, like, I kind of feel like crap today. I'm going to turn around and go home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big deal to me either. I wasn't like depressed because my workout didn't happen. It was just like, oh, I'm tired.
Do you feel like that time period was like was that more fulfilling than even when you'd quote unquote made it, like, and were like, really pro and in contention every contest? Like, was that a more fun time period? Because I've seen that happen a lot in different domains where it's like the beginning part where you're
the
just
startup
out,
phase.
Yeah, is
we
like
were writing code together all night.
Exactly, as opposed to now sitting in board meetings type of phase of for business, let's say. But was that your experience?
My answer would be, it's kind of like parenting. Were the younger years more fulfilling than the teen years?
Yeah.
And it's like, the answer is, you can't compare it because it was different, and they both were beautiful.
In their own
Everything
ways.
was beautiful in their own way. Even my worst years when I was a big shot and getting my ass kicked, there's nothing worse than that. Like, you work so hard, you make it up to this pinnacle. In a career setting, you're vice president. You're not going to get demoted to mailroom if you're vice president, no matter what. I don't care about your drinking problem and your prostitution in the conference room after hours. You're not going to fall disgracefully. Well, maybe you will if you do that stuff, but the point is you build on it most careers.
Yeah.
But in triathlon, no one cares what my ranking was or how much money the sunglasses are paying me to wear.
Yeah.
They're just kicking my ass because I'm falling apart and my career's ending. But going back to the storyline, that first year and tapping into that resource, what happened was at the end of the year, like the final race to close the season, I upset the #1 ranked athletes in the world. The #1 duathlete and the #1 triathlete were facing each other for the first time, and everyone was wondering who was going to win. And I stole the show from these guys, and I was a complete nobody crossing the finish line in first place. So at that point, my life changed, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, I have a career here. I'm not going to be delivering pizzas forever, nor going back to the accounting firm, because I've just shown I've arrived at that level. I'm not going to stay there necessarily, but I can do it. I believe now it's a real dream, not a whim. Okay, and so what also happened with enjoying this immediate success was pretty soon I started to get consumed by it, and do all those things that I described, the opposite of, where I did attach my self-esteem to the result. I forced things to happen that weren't naturally meant to be, because now I was an important guy. I had a target on my back. The other athletes wanted to take back what I'd taken from them, especially the #1 guys in the world. This is no funny business when someone does a magnificent upset. They're very good sportsmanship. They shake my hand, and Scott Molina gave a great quote in the magazine after I won 2 races in a row and whooped him. And he said, they asked him, what do you think about this guy Kearns? And this is my hero. This guy, he's called the Terminator. He's the winningest triathlete of all time. He was like a legend in his day. And he said, well, Kearns is a good athlete, and he had a great couple of races. But let me tell you something. If he wins again, he's going to be puking at the finish line. And I remember reading that pull quote. It was a highlight quote in the magazine article. And you can see, like, today, this is 30 years later, I still get the goosebumps. Because when I read that, I honestly freaked out. And all the perspective changed for me on the spot, because I realized the significance of this guy. All I could do was, dream about being near him at the finish to overhear his conversation. That's how much of a legend he was. I'm not going to race him because he's too good, but I'm going to appreciate him from afar and just work hard and try someday to, come within 5 minutes of him. And now he's not only after me, but he's throwing down on me. So it was, that's when I started to make mistakes, force things to happen, rush things, feel the pressure, and then consequently struggle until another opportunity for recalibration came, which was basically, getting my ass kicked a few times after being a surprise winner in my first year of the circuit. So, over time I had to learn, to build that positive approach, stay committed to the process, get over myself again and again. So even if I succeeded, I wasn't going to be all haughty about it like athletes are in other sports. We have to get up and work pretty hard even if we're on top, unlike the guy who just won the Super Bowl and can go party all winter. So it was a great journey because you learn these lessons and you take them forward into all different areas of life, especially career, parenting, where you can get all caught up in being a helicopter parent. And I hope I'm going to talk to the coach and see if my boy can get on the A team instead of the B team because he's got more potential than these other kids. And you just go crazy, immersed into a deep attachment to the outcome to where you lose your perspective. And when you do that as an athlete, you get the most rudest awakening and lesson slap in the face, more so than probably other careers or other realms,
it's hard to you can hide your ego in a lot of other places.
like on the sidelines of the soccer game. Hey, way to be a team player, Drew, and you scored 3 goals. Fantastic. Yeah.
Let's transition to today now. And was it like a couple months ago you set a Guinness World Record, which to me is so awesome that I know someone who's actually out there making a legit attempt at a Guinness World Record, fully sanctioned. So tell me that story, the little ins and outs, like what do you have to do to make it an official Guinness record, and what was it that you did, and how did it go?
Right, you set it up nicely because it's no funny business setting yourself up for an official attempt. Just like Joey Hot Dog, he's got the cameras there and the officials watching with their red coats and charting down that the hot dog is actually of proper length, and he's got the bun that's not chopped up. And so I saw this amazing video on YouTube last winter by this gentleman named Steve Jess from Great Britain, and it was the fastest hole of golf ever played by an individual.
One single hole.
The fastest single hole, with the important parameter being that it had to be minimum 500 yards length. So a par 5, if you're a golfer, that's one of the longer holes on the course. 500 yards, that's over a quarter mile. So
so you already have to run a quarter mile built into this.
Yeah. So I saw this guy set this record. There's 161,000 views on the video, so it's gotten around. Of course, 1,000 of those views are mine, so there's really only 160. I was captivated because I play speed golf. I'm a professional competitor on the circuit. I've placed top 20 in the World Championships 3 times, and this is a wonderful sport where you have a proper golf tournament where they keep your score, and they also time you over the course, and they add it together to get your speed golf score. So, for example, my best tournament, 3rd place in the California Professional Championships 2017, I shot a 78 in 47 minutes. So my speed golf score was 125, and the winner was 119. He shot par in 46 minutes or something. So that's how the sport is played, is you're playing the entire course and had that other element of running quickly to the ball and carrying a handful of clubs.
Yeah.
So this was kind of an offshoot of the proper speed golf competition where this guy just did one hole. And if you look on YouTube, you can also see there's these groups of PGA Tour players trying to break the record for a relay race for the fastest hole, where one guy's waiting in the fairway and runs up to the ball as soon as it's hit. One guy's waiting on the green to putt as soon as the ball is advanced to the putting green. And I think England beat Italy, and they set the record and did it in 30 seconds, and Ian Poulter was one of the players, noted pro. So there's 2 different Guinness records. Yeah, this guy Steve Jeffs, man, he put it out there. This video is beautiful, where he gets dogpiled at the end by his family. They're so excited that he broke this record. And so the standing record was 1:50 to play this single hole of golf. I'm like, you know what? I can sprint. I do sprint workouts all the time.
Right.
I'm a pretty good speed golfer. I'm a top 20 guy. I'm gonna go out there tomorrow night and get my stopwatch and just bust out a new record. Of course, it's not official. I figured I'd give it a shot. So I go out there the next night, and I get to the last hole, which is a 500-yard par 5 at Bing Maloney, Sacramento. And I start my watch, and I actually do pretty well, even though I'm running a pretty fast tempo, much faster than I would in a tournament.
What club did you?
I had a few clubs, you know.
Couple clubs, yeah.
And so I got up there, boom, 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 hit some good shots, putted into the hole, stopped my watch, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That's 22 seconds behind the record. And I go back and watch the video again and again. And I'm like, what is this guy, like an Olympic sprinter or something?
Yeah, is this Usain Bolt mixed with
I thought I was
Nicholson?
going fast. So I went out the next night and I said, okay, I got to run full speed now, forget this. You know? So I went full speed, but in going full speed, in my haste, I hit a couple of sideways shots. I had to go get it and lose a little time. Of
course.
Oops, I missed the short putt because I was rushing it. Stop the watch, 2:13. So now I go home and I dig up this guy's email from the Speed Golf Registry, and I'm like, dude, what is the story? First of all, awesome performance. I love your video. How did you do it? What's going on here? Because I tried and I'm way behind.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? I practiced that hole hundreds of times, over and over and over all summer, to know exactly where to hit the ball in the right spot and where I needed to place my ball so I could putt it in quickly. And, good luck. Super great sportsman, like all Great Britain and Australian athletes. They're all about the sportsmanship and competitive lifestyle. None of the posturing that you see in America. Sorry, Americans, get over yourselves. I mean, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a long-term project. I worked and worked for many months. I decided to apply the wonderful peak performance skills of, analysis, problem solving, strategy. I made an optimization choice to go with one club, because Jeff's had a bag where he's taking clubs out, putting them in like we do in a tournament. You need clubs to go play the whole course.
Right.
But for one hole, I said, I'm going to go for broke here and try to take a chunk out of this record by just using a 3-wood. So I don't have to drop a bag. I don't have to pick up a bag. I don't have to fuss with anything. But I do have to get good at these weird 3-wood shots where I'm bunting a 20-yard shot on the ground to get that final shot to the green.
Yeah.
And then learning how to putt with a 3-wood. So that was the fun process, was like to kind of optimize this record attempt with innovations and then repeated exact specific practice, like the, what's the book, The Talent Code, Daniel Coyle, Malcolm Gladwell talking about that specific practice and these great concepts. Yeah, so I put in a lot of dry runs and preparation time. And then the part that you alluded to when you asked the question is like, oh yeah, you want to go break a record? It's not about just doing a YouTube video and showing everybody, hey, I break it. A formal attempt has to be approved by Guinness. So it's a 12-week application process where you have to submit all these guidelines and evidence. And then when you finally get approved for the attempt, you have to have 12 people out there to watch. You need official witnesses. You need official timers. You need official still photographer. You need official videographer. You have sworn statements that at least one of the people didn't know you prior. So it's not all your buddies out there like not verifying correctly.
You basically need like a notary.
Basically, yeah. So on record attempt day, May 8th of 2018 at Bing Maloney, the pressure was on, man. It was a big difference from me trying on the last hole of the night by myself right before dark. My girlfriend's sister and her husband, Sean and Maria, drove 3 hours from Reading to support my record attempt. Sean's going to be the official timer because he's retired CHP and he has the expertise timing vehicles or whatever else, criminals, I don't know. So I had my team set up, but it was like the significance of the attempt was on me, seeing I'm renting all these golf carts and they're closing down the pro shop so the guy can be the official witness and so forth. And so that day I had a great attempt and I did a minute 40. So I took 10 seconds off the pre-existing record, which I attribute to all my practice, just like Steve Jeffs achieved his record. Using the 3-wood only was a huge boost. And then I hit every shot dead straight and went after it.
On your first attempt?
That was my first attempt, which was also key because when you're sprinting full speed, you're allowed multiple attempts. Guinness doesn't care. And if you hit a bad drive into the trees, you can say, oh, I'm starting over.
Right.
That was all allowed. But my very first attempt, I just went for it at full speed. And that's when I got the record from hitting the ball straight and just keeping that strategy. I did hit a couple crappy shots where I stubbed one, but it went straight and then I hit the other one good, right? But I was, afterward thinking, that wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I broke the record, but I started to get the competitive juices flowing again.
You feel like you left some seconds out there on the course.
Like, maybe I could try again. And I didn't want to rally the same people. I mean, one trip from Reading and back is enough for Sean and Maria, so I decided I'll do it in LA in front of my mom and dad and son and cousin and my childhood buddies down there, the Benin boys, who are stars of the YouTube video that you'll be directed to watch. Super exciting record attempt number 2. And that one I like to talk about because I felt like I ascended to a higher plane of existence and I was in the flow state like I've never experienced before. I mean, it was magic.
Really? Even like all the other things that you've done, this was
because
your highest flow.
This is so precise and technical and so fast moving that you don't even have time to think. And what happened was at this course in LA called Woodley, I basically hit 4 perfect shots, made a birdie, and lowered the record to 138. So I hit a great drive, I hit a great second shot, I hit a very delicate third shot, 20-yard chip that bounced on bumpy grass, jumped onto the green, and then just poured toward the hole to about 6 feet from the hole, and I raced up there and knocked in the putt with a 3-wood. And so like the odds of executing all those difficult shots for me, I'm a good player, but I'm not, I'm not a PGA player that can do fun stuff and magician tricks with my 3-wood. So it's just like the best practice shot I've ever taken times 4,
Really?
All coming together and full speed sprinting to where my heart's in my throat. Yeah, so the other optimization of the record was that I trained my brain to just run up to the ball and hit it when generally you want to catch your breath and get settled and look at the target.
Right, make
and
a good
all
shot.
That crazy stuff. There's no time for that when you're starting to try to lower that record more. So that was a great celebration. You can see I was a little pumped up on YouTube.
It's amazing that that like everything coming together and hitting, your best shots only took 2 seconds off.
Yeah, you know what's weird?
Previous...
I studied the video and I realized like my great third shot was kind of above and to the right of the hole. So I had to run up to the green, pivot 270 degrees with my body, line up this putt, and then sink like a 6-foot putt. But a 6-foot putt takes 4 seconds to drop. So you're almost as fast hitting a couple extra shots as long as they're dead straight.
Happy Gilmore style.
Exactly,
putting,
like hockey style. But there's a very fine line. Like I proclaimed on a speed golf podcast, I go, this record can be broken. You're gonna have to get a birdie. There's no way you're gonna be wasting, those shots getting a par or a bogey. I got a bogey on the first attempt in Sacramento, and that's where I picked up the extra couple seconds. So, we have an Olympic silver medalist in the speed golf ranks. His name is Nick Willis from New Zealand, and so Nick Willis can run a flat out quarter mile probably 10 seconds faster than a 53-year-old has been like myself. But that 10 seconds will be grabbed back very quickly if you hit so much as one even mediocre shot. It just the time goes.
Yeah.
And then you got to learn to use one club, because if you want to drop and pick up clubs, you're going to lose time too. So that's fun, man. It's packaging the old story from triathlon. And I should add that, like, I'm so far gone from being a professional athlete and having that consuming my life. Now I'm an ordinary guy. I write books, do podcasts, raise kids, live life. But I feel like it's important to have something getting you up in the morning and having a little bit of that edge continuing for the duration of your life. And it doesn't have to be something important. I thought it was fun that I could go for this Guinness record and have Brian McAndrew make a kick-ass video and brag about it and show it to people. But my other passion is high jump, and I go to the dead empty stadium, no one there.
Yeah. The
bar's hidden underneath the canvas. I uncover the pit and I jump high jump, and I feel like when I'm in that mode, I feel like I'm in the Olympic finals, and that the stadium's full with 50,000 people watching this old guy try to high jump. So it's like the significance inside for me to have a competitive drive, to want to improve my height over the bar from the last time, and by doing so, defying the aging process in one small way, one small leap for mankind and Brad Kearns, and that's about it. But it adds a richness element to my life, even though I'm not totally consumed and obsessed with it. And in fact, no one is watching when I'm high jumping. And I'm still screaming when I clear the bar and I exit the pit, and I'm overjoyed that I did something that was fun. So it's different than being on the circuit and coming around the last corner in some metropolitan city and there's thousands of people clapping for here comes the winner of the race, and that's pretty cool too. But just like you asked that other question about what part of my triathlon career was most
fulfilling,
rewarding,
yeah.
Everything has that beauty to it, especially winning a race does not suck, nor succeeding in any other area of life, but it's also those small moments where you learn a lot about yourself from failure and from recalibrating, especially as a parent. I've seen I've seen my kid make a great achievement and pass the advanced placement test, and congratulations, you're going places in life. And then I've seen them get punched in the face by life and have a lot of struggle and suffering and disappointment, and I can't do much about that as a parent, but offering my support and maybe a choice word or two of perspective at the right time with the right timing, that makes me feel valued as well, like I did something important.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I've always admired about you, is that you have a really, I would say, high intrinsic motivation compared to a lot of people. And Warren Buffett's talked about this a lot, about being able to follow your own inner scorecard. And so if you are a person that needs other people's validation, I think that's going to just be a harder life in general. But if you're somebody
very politely said.
Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody who is kind of running their own race in life, which I would say that that's one of the things that I really admire about you, is that I think you're a really good example of that. I think it's just a more fun journey, and I think it's a great example to set for your kids as well.
Hey, thanks. That's a compliment. I'll take it. I feel like I'm maybe a blend of the various elements, and I also don't mind. I'm very purposeful when I'm promoting myself and, let's say, my accomplishment, because I feel like I have a chance to motivate and inspire others. So maybe part of me does have an ego, and I want to see my number of views increase from my world record thing. But I also know, if someone put that up for me, like Steve Jeffs did, that guy changed my life and gave me the most beautiful goal to pursue. And so what he did was, a personal challenge and a personal achievement, got dogpiled by his family, but he also made the world a better place, because now, and since that time, other guys are going for this record and putting up their own YouTube videos, and it's just fun to promote the sport of speed golf. So I also learned as an athlete, halfway through my career, that maintaining this modest disposition and this grace that's overly manufactured at times because you want to be seen as a good guy,
right,
is kind of bullshit at certain times. And so, I had to wake up halfway through my career, like Harold Abrams in the Academy Award-winning movie Chariots of Fire. Remember when he was writing the reports into the newspaper to try to get more publicity for sprinting and his Olympic dream, and he'd say, submitted by a special correspondent. Harold Abrams won the 100 meters again in Oxford in a record-smashing time. The chap was far ahead of the pack, and he'd send these stories into the paper, and it was part of the movie that then it would get printed in the newspaper and people started to know him. So I decided like I had to run my career as a business and promote the crap out of myself because other guys were doing it better than me that were slower than me, and it was eating me, it was eating me alive to know that I'm winning the race with my sunglasses, and the guy who got 7th, who's better at schmoozing and better at sending clippings in of him pictured wearing their glasses, is getting 4 times as much money from me. And it's like I had to understand the economic realities of like, you gotta hustle, you gotta promote yourself, you gotta carry yourself as a professional and not be a badass, but the false modesty and the fake self-deprecation. I've talked about this before with you about podcast hosts or podcast guests who are like, well, I only have 3 million Twitter followers. It's not that many compared to LeBron James, but I do my best, and my humble following will hopefully gain some insights and inspiration from me. It's like, F you, dude. Just acknowledge who you are.
Yeah.
Say, I'm really glad to be on this ride. I'm working hard to help others, and it's freaking awesome, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of blend those attributes to where I can be as authentic as possible, and everyone should know that I'm a goofball, and I'm working on getting over myself. That's why I named my podcast Get Over Yourself. It's not in your face to the listener. It's like, hey, let's take on this challenge together, where my main message coming from all that time as an athlete was like, if you cultivate a pure motivation, that's when you'll have the most happiness, fulfillment, and even competitive results. And that's what's so cool these days. Like all these business leaders are now expressing this evolved mindset. It wasn't there 10, 20 years ago. 10, 20 years ago, it was like, Warren Buffett's smart. He buys stocks that are undervalued. He keeps them forever. You should too. Don't be a loser and sell your stock when the market dips. And that's all we heard.
Yeah.
We didn't hear about Larry and Sergey at Google deciding to turn down untold riches for many years because they wanted to build a better search engine, and nothing would keep their focus away from that goal, not even early .com riches. And so, as astute listeners know, those guys were on the sidelines until they went public in 2004, 4 years after they could have become billionaires. Of course, the story worked out well for them, but they were so not about the money. They were about the journey and about the quality of the product. And now you see guys like that left and right who are getting their due in society as, truly successful in the right way. Seth Godin and all his little newsletters, always with that evolved mindset rather than, you will crush it if you just, follow my peak performance. Tony Robbins is getting a little heat now because his stuff is maybe a little dated, where, it's not all about you puffing up your chest and, coming across with fake, fake arrogance or even
ultra masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. One funny fact about Google that I always think about is that, if I remember right, they were the 17th or 19th search engine on the market. So it wasn't like
AskJeeves.com.
Yeah, there was Ask Jeeves, there was Lycos, there was Yahoo,
Alta Vista.
They were late to the party, relatively speaking. So it just goes to show you, if you do make a better product, which they did, and they focused on the quality, not so much rushing things. That's kind of one of the interesting things I struggle with a little bit in studying Silicon Valley from afar, is this idea of move fast and break things, which fetishizing failure.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed by this product. I launched it so quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's right. To me, I appreciate the idea of getting feedback from your customers before you spend too much time or money on something.
Yeah.
Just to get a validation, a reality check that what you're doing is going to be useful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to be so fast that you make a lot of mistakes, I think you could kind of look at Facebook right now is running into a lot of problems because they've been so fast and not really thought about a lot of the ethical problems that they're creating. So it's, this idea of move fast and break things to me sounds good, but I'm not so sure it's always the best advice.
Well, I guess if there's nothing better and there's no GPS map available and you got the first one and it's not perfect, okay, put it out there. But if you're moving fast because your stockholders are looking for, or your capital investors, that part is disturbing, because I think we have that impure influence in in the world right now, the consumerism and the need to produce a profit, just like an athlete who's getting paid to wear someone's apparel, and so you go and overtrain because you feel indebted to the person rather than staying committed to, someday maybe that athlete will turn out even better if they have the time and the patience. The NBA players, Lonzo Ball, the Lakers, needs knee surgery finally this summer. Guess what? He was in and out of the lineup 4 times over the year with a bad knee. Why don't you just shut that guy down in December so he can heal his freaking knee, because he's 20 years old and he's got 14 more years. But they don't think like that. They just think, well, let's see if he responds to advanced treatment and can play next Tuesday. And they're treating them like dogs instead of athletes and business entities that are multi-million-dollar assets. They have no concept of that because they're too consumed with winning next week, And oh, by the way, the Lakers sucked anyway, so who cares if he's in or out of the lineup? Yeah, so the guys that have that, same with business leaders who have that evolved approach and don't want to put shit out there that they know is crappy, hopefully that'll be a nice counter to the extreme examples that you talk about.
Yeah. Well, Bradley, I appreciate you coming on a hike with me.
Oh my gosh.
I had a lot of fun.
What a fabulous experience.
I'm happy to hear some of the backstory about especially your early triathlon days, because we've talked a little bit about it, but I've kind of always been wondering, and it's nice to just take the time out to get into the real stories.
That's right. I mean, it's fun to talk about too, and I think I tried to draw those. There's a lesson to draw out of it. It's not just reminiscing at the bar over the races that the great achievements that you won or lost. Yeah.
Hey there, it's Jake again. I hope you enjoyed this hike with Brad Kearns as much as I did. If you like this Hikecast format, or maybe even want to take me on your favorite hike, shoot me an email at 5goodquestions@gmail.com, all spelled out. Lastly, be on the lookout for my first literary effort, The Rebel Allocator, coming out later this year. Hopefully I'll see you on the trail soon.
Thank you for listening to the show. We would love your feedback at getoveryourselfpodcast@gmail.com. And we would also love if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a hassle. You have to go to desktop iTunes, click on the tab that says ratings and reviews, and then click to rate the show anywhere from 5 to 5 stars. And it really helps spread the word so more people can find the show and get over themselves, because they need to. Thanks for doing it. This is Brad to talk about my favorite performance supplement, Real Ketones, makers of the most scientifically advanced, heavily researched supplemental ketone product in the world. Yes, you can now drink ketones, the same stuff that your liver makes from devoted ketogenic eating. Quickly get into ketosis and promote your athletic, weight loss, cognitive performance, and disease protection goals. I am calling this the greatest breakthrough in performance nutrition in decades. Ketones are a superior, cleaner burning fuel source than glucose. All those powdered, sugary gels and blocks we've been drinking, glucose produces 45 times more free radicals than ketones. So when you drink ketones, like I do before, during, and after workouts, I turbocharge fat burning, generate less inflammation, especially in the highly sensitive brain cells, which is why you feel fried the day after a tough workout. Less cellular destruction, less muscle soreness, faster recovery. Try Real Ketones' brand new product, Prime D+, a unique formula that combines the high-potency BHB salts with MCT oil to quickly get your body into sustained ketosis with no crash effect, because MCT helps boost internal fat and ketone production. Go to bradkearns.com/shop, click the link and get 10% off forever. Learn more at realketones.com.